Today we're going to be looking at how to store a soap that has multiple uses for long-term storage. A soap that will not only be good for washing your dishes and your clothes, but also be good for making insecticide too, right after the channel intro.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired! Ambulance en route.
Welcome to this channel. This channel is all about learning how to prepare for when the dark times come and the grocery stores are stripped bare. And this channel is all about prepping for those dark days while still retaining our integrity and our honor. So let me kind of fill you in on my story just a little bit. In my preparedness journey, I want to have a nice, healthy mixture of having stockpiled supplies along with having as much knowledge on how to make things that we use on a daily or regular basis. For instance, I don't want to only stockpile vegetable and garden seeds. I also want to learn how to save the seeds from the vegetables that I grow so that I can continue to grow and regrow my vegetables and food year after year after the grocery stores are emptied during a societal collapse. And one of the issues that I run into is soap. I have not been able to make soap yet from completely natural ingredients, such as making the lye from wood ash and then adding the fat to it like the pioneers did. I've tried several times and even making sure my homemade lye was strong enough to float an egg, but I've just not been able to get this art down yet. So that brings me to my next point about this video subject. While I'm still trying to learn how to make soap completely from nature, I'm obviously going to work on stockpiling some of it for use after the grid goes down. So one thought that I had was that a soap that could serve more than one function would be the best. And also something that was more concentrated so that a little bit could go a long way. So one thing that I'm doing right now, unless I find something else that works better, is I'm stockpiling up on some cheap liquid dish soap. And that's because dish soap is usually fairly concentrated, meaning that I won't have to use a bunch of it to get the job done. Now I'm currently buying cheaper liquid dish soap, and that's because I'm not exactly swimming in money. And thanks to a subscriber that I will only call Neil, I'm also going to be checking out a company that can ship what appears to be pretty reasonably priced liquid dish soap to my house. And I'll put a link to that company and their soap down below in case you want to check them out. But one of the things I'm testing out here is long-term storage for liquid dish soap. And I chose liquid dish soap because I believe that not only will I be able to wash dishes with it after SHTF, but you can also use it to do your laundry with and to also make an insecticide with it too, which will be great for protecting your crops after SHTF. Now, from the little bit of looking into it that I've done, it appears that you don't really want to use dish soap for everyday bathing. It seems as though dish soap may be a little rough on the skin, although it's supposed to make a great shampoo alternative. But if I can stockpile a soap that will cover just about everything else but my bathing, I'm going to be pretty happy with that. And one of the things I'm doing here is figuring out how I can stockpile and store this liquid dish soap for long-term storage, where I can stockpile a decent bit of it and put it into a closet and forget about it until I need it. Now, some people may ask, why do I bother with stockpiling things for long-term storage when I should use what I prep and prep what I use? And their belief is that this keeps a regular rotation of things so you don't have to worry about how long an item will store for. And that's a very valid point, but a true rotation system just won't work for me as I live in a smaller house, so I just don't have the space to do that. To make a long story short, I just don't have the space to have an efficient rotation system that would allow me to rotate things without having to move a bunch of other things out of the way just to grab out the oldest bottle or can of something every time I emptied an old bottle or can of something. Basically, what works the best for me right now is that I am able to store something away for long-term storage and forget about it. But please do not get me wrong, if you are able to easily rotate items out, that is great, and do what works best for you. But let's get back to the actual topic of this video. Right now I am choosing liquid dish soap because a little will go a long way and it's good for more than just washing dishes. And now I want to make it where I can store it for long term, where it will be able to safely sit for hopefully decades and not naturally dry out and become unusable. So what I'm doing with it is I'm going to try out seeing how long it will store if I put it into mason jars and fill it almost to the complete top and then use my vacuum sealer to suck all of the air out of it. I'm afraid that if I leave it in its original plastic bottle that over time that the water will slowly evaporate out of it, making it a gloppy mess if I ever have to use it out of necessity. But what I'm hoping for here is that if I fill the mason jar up as far as I can and still be able to vacuum it closed, then there won't be enough air inside the jar for it to dry out and become unusable. And as you've probably seen in this video, I know I have a good seal on those jars because I can pick it up and shake it by holding the lid only, which means that it has a good vacuum seal. Now this little experiment could be a horrible failure for me. The soap could still suffer a chemical separation of the ingredients over several years' time and still become unusable. But vacuum sealing the soap like this should surely extend its storage time many times over. So let's hear from some of you more experienced preppers. What soap do you like to stockpile? And why do you choose that type of soap? And how do you store it for long term? And do any of you suggest any certain type of a really concentrated soap that's not crazy expensive? Something that a normal prepper could afford? And where do you buy it at? And what's the best way to store it for long term? And then also comment with what kind of soaps are you planning to stockpile and use for after the grid goes down. And also, if any of you know somebody that actually makes soap from their own homemade wood ash lye, somebody that might be willing to troubleshoot what I'm doing wrong, please let me know. So share your tips below and let's make this video a wealth of information for the whole prepping community. And folks, today's video wasn't to try to tell you that my way of vacuum sealing liquid dish soap is the best answer for you all. This video was to show you what I am personally doing and to also find out from the prepping community what they are doing. And to also see what kind of awesome ideas that we as a community can come up with. And if you would like to see how you can easily and cheaply be one more step towards being prepared, and see how you can ensure that you are able to do your laundry after SHTF for pennies and without having to purchase any expensive gear, then click on the link that should be appearing on the top of the screen just about now to learn more about that. And to learn how easy it is for you to grow herbs off-grid, even if you live in an apartment. But how this knowledge will make you just a little better of a prepper and also fight food boredom after SHTF, then click on the video that should be appearing on the right side of the screen just about now. Anyways folks, if you made it this far, hey, thank you very much for watching, and I pray that you have a good night.